Greetings, 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 everyone. Steve, Paracords of Kindness. How are you doing today? Hopefully your weaving's been happy. What I have for you today is I'm going to show you how I make a stitched, modified side step, if you will. I mentioned this later on in the video. I got it off of Cetus 550 weaving profile on Instagram. I don't know if this is the same specific weave for some of the videos I've seen on YouTube or not, but I know I haven't seen any that do stitching. And as always, I see a bracelet, I'm like, I bet you I can stitch that. So I sat down and figured it out. But if you want to know how to make it, we'll get to it. But I'll show you, this is the one we're going to be working on today. It's midnight blue. The accent color is called blue steel, and it's kind of hard to see, but the stitching is indigo. Now, just to tell you up front, this bracelet it's not very wide, but it is thick. It's deceptively thick. Did I say that right? It's thicker than you might think. I know when I made it, it's a little thicker than you think it is. So I'll just let you see how thick this is, right? It's 4-core strand. But if you want to know how to make it, with all the tips and tricks and all the commentary I give in my videos, stick around. We'll get right to it, folks. Okay, folks, I'm back. I'm set up. We're going to start weaving in a second. Let me make a few announcements, get some housekeeping type things out of the way. Most of you have heard me say a lot of this, but I'll say this. First off, thanks to all the new subscribers. Welcome to the channel. If you haven't watched the video that I don't know, I pinned it to my home the channel, a home channel screen, whatever. It's called Welcome to Paracord of Kindness. If you haven't seen that one yet, go watch it. It kind of gives you the intent of my channel. It kind of explains things a little bit. Okay, with that said, I say this at the beginning of all my videos, and I like to say this up front so people know. I'm not a filmmaker. That's not what I do. I don't have the best equipment, or lighting, the sound, all that stuff, so I apologize. I get out of frame quite often. The camera won't stay in focus, all that kind of stuff. That's not what I do. That's not what I know how to do. I don't claim to be a filmmaker, but I know how to make paracord bracelets. That's what I know how to do. And I try. The intent of this channel is for me to share what I've learned, the tips and tricks and wisdom, if you will, that I've learned through my struggles, to impart that to you. So hopefully you won't struggle like I have. You can learn from my mistakes. Does that make sense? Hence why I just turn the camera on, start talking, start weaving, mistakes and all. And I make a lot of them. But I catch them and I try to correct myself, and I use it as a learning experience. Hey, don't do that again. That makes sense. Put that in your brain housing group and don't do that again. Okay, so with that said, let's see. Link to this one. This is, what is that? Double stitched modified jawbone. If you look close, you can see it. The craftsmanship is in the details. It's got an orange stitch and the yellow stitch right there. But I'll put the link for that in the cards and the description below. Now this one right here is something, I kind of come up with this myself. I took a couple of different weaves and I kind of combined them together to come up with this one. This is a stitched advanced mated Solomon, right? And this one's got a maroon buckle to match the maroon color. But in the cards and the description below. Okay. Let's see. What's next? Okay, I'll throw this out there. This bracelet, I come across this for those who are on Instagram. I want to say the channel is Cetus 550 Weaving. The only thing that he's got on there is a bunch of individual posts, and, you know, it's just a picture. That one post is a picture with, I want to say, like 9 panels, and it's a pictorial. right? And you can follow it. And he gives you the measurements and all that kind of stuff. It's basically like if any of you own any of his books, it's kind of the information that would be on his books. Now, there's some stuff on that Instagram profile that aren't in any of his books, right? And I come across this one. I've been wanting to do this for a while. And he's got it labeled as a sidestep variation number 2, right? Now, is there a YouTube video for this specific variation or modification? I have no idea. Now, I know there's a lot of videos, tutorials out there for, you know, all kind of side steps and sidestep modifieds and all kind of stuff. So, I don't know. But what I do know is that I personally have not seen any tutorials on how to stitch one of these things. Which, you know, so I kind of come up with this. For those of you who know me, I'll sit down, I'll take a piece of scrap micro cord and my micro needle, my stitching needle, and I'll sit down for a couple hours, half a day, messing around trying to figure out how I can stitch one of these things. Until I figure it out, and you know, where to poke through and all that, and to get it to work right and get it to look right, and then I'll make one. And that's what I did with this. The bracelet, you know, I just followed the tutorial, no problem. Stitching it, yeah, I took a little time and come up with it. So, with that said, that's what I did. I'll show you, when I get to that part, I'll show you how to do the stitching here. I'll show you, you know, just give you kind of an overview. It's like the video I did for the stitched Saturn. You can do it, no problem. But me, I pay attention to the details. And I want the cords where like, this one that's running at an angle here, this yellow one that's running at an angle here, it's going in there, and then the one right below it that's running at an angle here, it's coming out there. And I want those two cords, one to go over, one to go under, specific way. And I'm consistent with it all the way down. Like I said, the craftsmanship is in the details. Makes sense? And that's what took me a little while to get it to look right. But stick around and I'll show you how to do all that. Okay, now, let's see. Give me a second. I'm gonna stand on my soapbox for a minute, if you don't mind. Just give me some leeway. Let me get on my soapbox and I'm gonna say something. Okay, first off, this bracelet is made on a 4-core strand, right? And the nature of it, because it's 2 different colors, you have to join 2 cords. In this case, we have, pay attention, nylon. I say again, nylon midnight blue. And on this one, polyester. Let me say that one more time. Polyester blue steel. Nature of this, you have to join these 2 cords together. They're joined right here up under my hand, or right here where my hand is. Right there is the joining point. Now, you can use the Manny method, no problem. If that's your preferred method, go for it. Or you can simply melt them together. Now here's my soapbox. Somebody posted a comment in one of the groups the other day, and they said the Manny method is the best. Okay, but if we're going to be intellectually honest, you saying it's the best is a matter of your opinion. Not that she's right or not that she's wrong. That's simply a matter of her opinion. My question is, what standard are you using to determine it to be the best? Because you think it's the strongest weld? You see what I'm saying? It's a matter of opinion to call it the best. That's a statement of absolute. Only Sith deal in absolutes. Ain't that what we learned from the Star Wars franchise? But with that said, if you're I had somebody ask me about this the other day. You can use the Manny method. I don't personally like it, you know. I can do this, but I know how to do this. I had somebody ask me the other day about this, and they're like, they can't get them to join or whatever. Got a video I did the other day. It's called it's called You Cannot Weld Polyester and Nylon Cords. Or can you? See, that's the thing. There's a myth that you can't weld those two together. You can. Or it's not a very strong bond. Well, for those who know, I put some tension on there and it ain't coming apart. It's not coming apart. You know, we all know. You go to a website, paracord supplier, And when you buy the stuff, it's clearly stated as a disclaimer, this is not a lifeline. So your life is not hanging in the balance of whether this weld holds or not. I'm not going to be hanging over a cliff with this determining whether I fall or not. You see what I'm saying? So how strong has it got to be? It's strong enough to hold right there on that jig, right? When I do one of these, I meld it together. And the way I do it, it makes sense. When you see it, you go, oh, that's why it's so strong. Exactly. I pull it as hard as I can, and if it comes apart, I do it again. Because, you know, I'll be honest, it comes apart sometimes because it doesn't get a good weld. But when you do it right, it will stay. Okay, with that said, I'm going to get off my soapbox. Calling one or the other the best is simply a matter of opinion. It's a matter of personal preference. Which one do you like better? I can do either one. This was just quicker and easier once you know how to do it. But with that said, okay, like I said, 4-strand core. If you don't know how to do that, playlist, link in the description below. I would recommend learning how to do all various, core strand setups. Get very familiar with those. That way, when you go to make a bracelet, you're not intimidated by, oh gosh, this one's a 6-strand core. If you know how to make it, you won't be intimidated. Sit down, practice that. That's what I had to do. And I still kind of fumble through it sometimes. Okay, now, with that said, just so we know, these 2 cords are not the same length. So, when you do a standard 4-core strand setup, the cow hitch is normally the halfway point of the cord. That's not the case in this one, so be mindful of that. This basically is, I've offset it about 2 or 3 inches, the weld. That's where, you see what I'm saying? I've just offset it a little bit so that hard piece of plastic is going to be inside the weave of the bracelet as opposed to up here. See what I'm saying? So, be mindful of that. Okay, now, with all that said, let me give you the specifications. This is a 15 millimeter. Let me get one of them. I'll show you what it looks like. It's a 15 millimeter. I know the light's kind of reflecting. It's a 15 millimeter brush brass. I think they call it a safety lock buckle. I get these from Paracord EU. 15 millimeter, for those, can't do the math in your head relatively quick. It's equivalent of an American 5/8 inch buckle, right? But this is a brush brass. Not to be confused with the antique brass. Slightly different. For those of you who bought kitchen fixtures, bathroom fixtures, all that, you're familiar with the difference. But this is brush brass. You can go on Paracord EU site, look, type in 15 mm brush brass buckle. It'll spit back a whole bunch of results. I got a couple of different sizes and things like that, but that's the one I'm using for this today. Okay, this bracelet is going to be made for a 7 3/4 inch wrist. The add to measurement is 1 3/4 inches. If you don't understand what I mean when I say add to, you can't take the wrist measurement and measure your jig out because the bracelet will be too small. You have to take into consideration the thickness of the bracelet, and that's the add to measurement, right? So 7 3/4, add to that 1 3/4 inches for a total of 9.5 inches. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. And you think, oh my gosh, 1 3/4 inches, that's an awful lot. Well, surprisingly, this bracelet is a thick one. And I didn't realize it. When I looked, this actually, was labeled as, 5 centimeters as the add to, which is 2 inches. And I was like, man, that seems like a lot. So I ended up, after I made it a few times, I've zeroed it down, to 1 3/4 inches for my weaving style. Maybe a little bit more for you or a little bit less depending on your weaving style. But that's for me, 1 3/4 inches. right? Because it is a thick one. Right? Okay, now, that's it. Let's see. Measurements. Midnight blue on this side. I'm using 12 foot 6 inches, which is probably going to be way more than I need. But, as always, I would rather have enough to finish the bracelet than to get close to the end and go, oh, I don't have enough cord. I'd rather have scrap to go in the bucket than not be able to finish the bracelet. On this side, 8 feet, which more than likely is going to be way more than I need. But, like I say, I'd rather have scrap than not enough. Okay, now, with all that said, you set it all up. Like I said, you don't set up the halfway point. You set it up basically where the weld is. And I've offset it just a little bit. Okay, now, let's see. I think that's everything. I think I covered everything. Yeah. If I remember something, I'll come back to it. But this one is not that difficult. It's not. It's like a lot of these bracelets. Once you do it and you get the overs and the unders down, there's a flow to it. You kind of one side to the other side and back and back. That's the way this one is. Okay. So with that said, this is how we're gonna start off. This is gonna be the accent color, which in the case of this one, our example here is this red looking color. Right? That's the accent color. See, that's on this side up here, right? Okay, now when you go to set this up, you can set it up either way. It doesn't matter. You can set it up with the accent color on this side and the main color of the bracelet on the other side. It doesn't matter. That's just the way I set it up, right? That's the way I tend to weave these. But, there we go. So, this is where we're going to start. Okay, we got 4 strands here. Let me zoom in, and we're going to start weaving. Hopefully you can see this. Like I said, we got 4 strands. You see that? Okay. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take this one and we're going to go over 2. These first 2 right here. We're going to go over 2. Right? Then we're going to go under 1. So we're going to go through that lane, that slot, and we're going to come back up right here. So all we're doing is going over these first 2 and under this one right here. Does that make sense? Okay, now, do you see what I'm about to do? I'm going to try to, this is a tip. This is the way I do it. If you pay attention to this, it might make this easier. Because this bracelet's got a couple of steps in it. Okay? And I'm going to try to show you one of the, kind of make it a little quicker for you. Okay, now what we're going to do, this loop that we have created, we want to maintain this loop right here. Right? And before I pull out all the slack, which is down through here, I'm going to take this bite right here and I'm going to stick it through that loop. You see that? Now when I do that, I'm going to reach down here and I'm going to grab right here where it's coming between these 2 cord strands. Right? And I'm going to just hold that. What that's going to do is maintain this loop. So when I pull this and pull all this slack through, it's going to keep this loop here. That makes sense. And I'm going to do this and I'm going to show you. Just pull all this slack through. And the thing is, I got like 12 feet of cord over here, so I can't just do it. And I got my camera set up and all this, so I can't go like I would normally do when I'm weaving. So, I got to kind of do it a little bit at a time. Okay. Now that I got all that through, like I said, we come off the top, we go over the 2 cord strands, I'm going to go through that slot. Then we come back this direction and we go underneath 1 cord strand. Right? We come out here and then we go through that loop that we created. Okay? Now, when we get to this point, this is the way I do it. And this seems to, it helps keeps the twists out of it. Right? Instead of just grabbing here and trying to pull it tight and cinch it all up, because you have a tendency to it'll want to twist on you. As you start doing and you get faster at it, it'll start wanting to twist. What I found to make it a little easier, once you get to this point, grab right here, and we're going to take this loop out. You see how I did that? Now we're going to pull this, and it's going to take this loop out. There's your loose cinch. Those of you who watched my channel before, the loose cinch, and then we push up, and then we give it a little bit of a tighter cinch. Alright? Now we're going to do that same thing again, but we're going to do it on this very last core strand. Right? So we're going to go from where we are, we're going to go over the next 2 core strands. Basically, we're going to go all the way over. We're just going to go over here. That's all. I mean, give a call like it is. Go all the way over to the far edge. And then we're going to go back under 1. Just like we did before. Maintaining this loop. And now we're going to take this bite and stick through there. Grab a hold of it here. And right here, not where all the slack is going, but right there where we just went under there, just hold it right there. Just hold it. And now we're going to pull our slack through. Alright. Now, just like last time, where we got our finger, we're going to pull up. It's going to take that first loop out, and then we're going to pull this piece, and it's going to take this loop out. That's it. Now, we've set that up. Now, we're going to do all that in reverse the other direction. And we're going to start with our lead cord. This one, we're going to go all the way across to the other side. We're going to go across all 4. Over 4. All the way across 4. Above this one. Our accent color is going to be above this one, or closer to the buckles. You see what I'm saying? Don't go under like that. We don't want that. We're going this one right here, keep it down out of the way, and we're going to come over everything. Over all 4 core strands. And then we're going to take it and we're going to go just like we did before. We're going to go under 1 and grab it right there. Maintaining that little loop. Alright? And we're going to take this where our fingers are, and we're going to put it through this loop. And this is where all our slack is, way down here. But we're going to grab, our excess I should say, we're going to grab that little bite right there. That's the one we're going to hold as we pull the slack out here, just like we did with the other 2. Just like that. So we went over all 4 of them. We went under that last one. Then we come back up and we're going through this loop. And we're going to take this. Pull it. And it's going to take the slack out of that loop. And then we're going to pull this one and take it up. Loose cinch, push up, a little bit of a tighter cinch. As you do this, you may not want to do it that way, but I'm just showing you the way I do it. Seems to work really well for me. Okay, so now we got that. Now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do this one again. We're always going to be moving. This one is always going to be going toward that accent color. Now that we've got the first one out of the way, this one's always going to go toward that accent. Right? So we're going to go from where it is over here. We're going to go over the first one and the second one. Right? Over 2, just like last time, but we're going in the other direction. Over 2. So we're going basically right through the middle, maintaining that loop. We're going right through the middle slot in all 4 core strands. Then we're going to come back this direction and come up 1 or under 1. I know that's hard to say because of the colors, but makes sense. Now, we're going to take this, stick it through the loop, grab a hold of it. All the excess is this. Get it out of the way and hold right there. Hold right there. That maintains this loop, and we're going to take our thumb and pull all that slack out. Or your finger, however, whatever you want to do, just get all that slack through there. Right? So all you're doing is going over these 2, starting from this side, you go over 2, down through the slot, under 1, and you come back up through, and you come through this loop. So we pull it up, and you pull it this way. Make sure it doesn't get twisted there, because like I say, it has a tendency to want to get twisted, and I found doing that little hold it and then pull the slack through, the excess through, that kind of helps to keep that from getting twisted. And I always make sure when you do this one, turn around and look at the back of it. You'll see how it's wrapped. Look, I'll show you. You can see it on this. You see how these black ones are wrapped around? There's a core strand running down through there, and it's wrapped around them core strands. And it's wrapped around here, and the accent colors wrapped around these 4 core strands. You don't want it where it's wrapping around these core strands, any of them. You don't want it to get a twist in it back there. That's what me holding that and pulling it and then pulling the slack and pulling the dot, instead of just trying to pull this and have it all tightened up at once, that's me doing it, putting that little extra step of holding it, doing it. It's to prevent that twist from getting on the back side of the bracelet. And it equates, sometimes it'll translate through the cord, and you'll see it up here. But be mindful, because it will happen. You start doing this, sticking and moving fast enough, it's gonna get twisted, and we don't want that. We don't want our cord twisted, right? That's why I do it that way. Okay, now, same thing. Again, we're gonna go, again, with our main color cord or whatever. We're gonna go over the last 2 cords, right? Because we basically have wrapped around, you got 1 cord, we've wrapped around the second one, now you got 2 or 3 and 4. And we're just going to go, bring it all the way across. Right? And then we're going to go underneath that last one again. Right here. We're going underneath right here. Over the rest of them, and then it goes underneath right there. Like I say, pull your little slack through, and take that bite. If you don't know what I mean by a bite, that bend in the cord is called a bite. And just stick it through and grab it right there. Now, this is the cord with all the excess. Don't mind it. And grab it right here. And hold this. Hold this as you pull the slack, all the excess through. And I usually just wrap it around my thumb. And just stretch my arm back as far as I can. And that'll pull the most of it out. Now be mindful if you got, small children in the way, pets watching you over your shoulder, your coffee cup over there, whatever. But pull that thing through, and bam, you can get it all in one motion. It's like you're doing the backstroke or something, right? Now that you got that, where your finger is, you just pull that up. Push it up. Loose cinch, push it to the top. And as you pull this, you can take your finger, your thumb, and kind of push it around, and it'll push that excess through. Right? Makes sense? That's all there is to this. We got those 2. Now, remember, this cord down out of the way. Get it down out of the way, because our accent is going to come over the top. You see what I'm saying? We don't want this colored cord to go over the accent cord. We don't want it like that. That's not right. So once you do this one with this main colored cord, just kind of get it out of the way. And then this one, will come over the top of everything. All 4 cords, this cord, everything comes way over the top, all the way across. And then you're going to go back that direction under 1 and up through that slot. And again, we're back to where sticking that bite through, grabbing it right here, and this piece that all the excess is going through, moving it out of the way, and then grabbing right there. And just holding it. Hold this with your finger here as you be mindful of, the kids and the pets and the coffee cup and the lamp and, the open candle flame or whatever you got back there, and you pull all your slack through. And then you grab this, you pull this, and it takes out that first loop. And then you grab here and you pull out that second loop and you kind of push it up, loose cinch, tight cinch. There you go. And like I said, you can take that thumb from where it's coming out right here and kind of roll it around, and it'll push that slack through, and you kind of get it a little tighter. Right? Now remember, we're going to stitch this, so we don't want to be wrenching down on this thing. All right? But that's it. That's all there is. Now, back to this side. Okay, we're on this side. We're going to go over these 2 right here. And we're going to go down through the middle. Now, like I said, it's a flow from one side to the other and to the back. And this colored cord, this way I picture it in my mind, is always going to be following this one. This one goes across the top of everything. Now we got to get this one back over here to it. Right? And we're going to go over those first 2. It's on this side. We're going to go over these first 2 and down through that middle slot. Right? Maintaining this little loop right here. Pull your little through. Take that bite and come through this loop and just grab it. And then just transfer your finger down there. Not where all the excess is, but just right here. Just hold it right there. And again, mindful of all the stuff and a full motion, and you'll get all that excess through. Then we pull here and it takes out that loop. Bam. And we pull here and it takes out that loop. Oh, I did that wrong. I did that wrong. We got to redo that. I'm going to undo all that. I apologize, folks. Like I said, I get it wrong too. Let's do that step completely over. We're just going to come back. Hang on. Let me adjust. I'm having, hang on, folks. Okay, we're going to try that one again. Hey, like I said, folks, I turn the camera on and I just start going. I just made a mistake. Okay, we're going to start with this one. We're going this direction. Remember, we're following the accent color. We're always trying to catch up with that accent color. So we're going to go over these first 2. And we're going to go through that middle slot. Down through that middle slot. And we're going to come back this way. Okay. Here's a mistake I did. I went over 2 and then under 2. No. Only under 1. Does that make sense? Because over the one that's, under my hand now, it's back here. Over that one, over this next one, and then we go down through the slot and under right here. Right? And we come back up through the first slot. Does that make sense? That was my mistake. And again, stick the bite through and grab that loop right there. And then hold right here. All the excess is down here. We hold right here. And we pull all that slack there. We pull up here. And we pull here. Kind of loose cinch, push it up, and a tight cinch. Now, going to do it again. We're going to go over the next two. So we're basically coming all the way to the end. And we're going to go under one this direction right here. Right there, under one. I'm going to take this, stick it through, grab a hold of it. And then grab here. All the excess is in this. We kind of ignore that. We grab right here. And just hold it. And we're going to pull all that excess through. And as you do this and you use more of your cord, obviously you have less excess to pull through. You won't look like you're trying to do the breaststroke or the backstroke with your arm, trying to get all that excess through. Make sense? Now we pull this. And then we pull this. Kind of push it up. Now look at it, the way it comes across here. I know you can't see it on the camera, but you look at what you're doing. I make sure there's not a twist in it. And like I said, feel the back of it. But, you know, I always tell people this. Take that jig. Now, mine's Velcroed down and all that. But take that jig and kind of, and spin it. Once I get it done a little bit, I can spin it. But I can lean over and I'll look at the back of it to make sure it looks right. Because, you know, the front's got a pattern. Guess what? The back's got a pattern too. Make sure it's falling into place. You don't have any twists in anything. Does that make sense? Now, I'll show you this one more time. And then I'm going to do like I always do. I'm going to show you, commentate, give you the commentary and the tips and the tricks on how to do it. Then I'm going to just do it and let you see me do it. Right? Maybe you get something out of that. Maybe you don't. Or whatever. But watch. Again, we got both our cords on this side. We're going to lead with the accent color all the way across the top. And we're going to go back under this one strand. This first strand, back under, grabbing that loop right there. We're going to come through here. And where I got my hand, that's where all the excess is. Grab it where it's coming through right there. And then pull all your slack through, your excess through. Pull up. And then pull that up. Push it up. Take your finger. Run it across and pull that slack out. Push all that excess down through there as you're pulling this cord. Does that make sense? I kind of get a little tighter. Alright? Now, again, we're coming back to this side. First core strand, second core strand. Go over those two. Down through that slot. Back that direction under one. Maintaining this loop right here. And this right here, we're going to put through there. Grab a hold of it. And take this, the excess, and move it. And just grab right there. And hold that as you pull your excess through. And once you do this and you get a little faster at it, you'll see why I'm doing this. And you might change it, modify it, or whatever. I'm just trying to, I figured this was the best way to explain it. And then we pull this through. And then we pull this through. I'm pushing it up. Make sure it gets pushed up. Now, again, we're going to go over the last two strands. Over the last two strands. Up through the middle. No. Take it back. Over the last two strands. And up through that last one. Yeah, that's right. Over those last two. Underneath this last core strand. Going through there. Right? And grabbing it right here and holding it. And pulling your excess through. If you hadn't seen what it is yet, it's the same knot over and over. You're doing it one direction, and then back the other, and back the other. You just got to make sure that when you do it, you get this main color cord, you're doing it around the correct core strand. Because this one, it's always on the outer edge. Bam, do it on the outer edge. Bam, do it on the outer edge. Do it on the... You just got to make sure you get this one done on the right cords. You see what I'm saying? But we pull that up, and we pull this up. Kind of push it up, or whatever. Makes sense. And we see the pattern starting to form. Not so much, because I don't have very much of it done. But, okay, now, did all that. That should be enough for you to get the basics of it, okay? Now, I'm going to just back out, and I'm going to do a couple of repetitions so you can see how I do this. Okay? This is me maintaining that loop. I say maintain that loop. This is me maintaining that loop. Okay. Me maintaining that loop. I'm sorry if the camera shook just then. Right, now we got them all on the same side. Now we bring this one all the way across. Maintaining that loop. Rolling that thumb across that one to get that excess out. Pushing it up. Alright. Now, maintaining that loop. See how I kind of combined all that in just one little fluid motion? Yeah, once you do it enough, and do it like I showed you, and once you get the mechanics of the overs and the unders and stuff, you'll see, or whatever. Maintaining the loop, come up. I'm feeling the back of it to see if everything feels like it's in place. Here, I'm going to lean in there and look at it. Yeah, everything's in place. But we see that? Now you see how I did that? I grabbed a hold of it and I pulled my hand out here. That's to maintain that little loop. So there's slack and there'll be enough for that little loop that I'm doing. And then I just do it like this. I mean, you can do it however you want. I'm just showing you kind of how I do it, and you know, once you do it and you get quick and all that, you'll start kind of developing your own little way of doing it. But that's it, man. That's all there is to it. Here, I'll zoom back in so you can see it. Now I've done about 4, 5, 6 repetitions, you'll see the pattern starting to form. Hang on a second. Here, let me adjust this. That way I can zoom in just a little bit more. But you see what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? Hopefully, I don't know, can you see that very well? But yeah, that's all there is to it. Now, when you do it, be mindful, because I can already look at mine and see this. Here's a tip. Here's a tip. I can already see it. You know, it's like anything. When you first do a bracelet, you're kind of unfamiliar with yourself and you're not pulling it tight or whatever. And as you kind of you do it a couple of times, you get used to it and you start pulling it a little tighter. And your bracelet will get narrow right there in the middle. Be mindful of that. We don't want that. We want it neat, clean, and tight. We want them sides to be the same. And I can tell just by looking at mine that I've pulled it a little tighter than I did up here. And it's getting a little bit more narrow right here. So we're going to have to fix that. But I'll fix that, no problem. But that's just something you need to be mindful of. So that's why I talk about tension consistency. You've heard me say this, and I've talked about it in one of my videos. It's not a matter of you've got to pull it tight. You've got to pull it tight. No, you don't have to pull it tight. We don't want it incredibly loose, but you don't have to wrench it down every time. I mean, me, that's just my style. That's the way I do it. But what you have to do is maintain tension consistency. However hard or loose, or however tight or loose you do this weave, you have to do the next weave the same amount of tension. That way your sides of the bracelet will be the same. Like I say, this one, I can tell just by looking at it. These last 2 repetitions, I've pulled them tighter than these repetitions up here. And hence why the top of the bracelet up here is wide, and as it goes down, it's getting narrower. It's because I pulled those tighter. That's what I'm talking about. You stop and you look at it, and, you know, if you need be, I'll do this sometimes. I can't do it right now. But I'm looking at this bracelet from this angle. I'll stop and I'll adjust my point of view and I'll look at it like this. And I'll look up the side of it. And you can see. Does that make sense? But look at it as you weave, look, and then look back up at what you've done. And you want everything to be consistent. And this one right here, I can tell you right now, I'm going to have to go back. And kind of, I know why it's doing it. Yeah, that fix it right there. Push everything up. But yeah, that's all there is to it. That's it, folks. Like I say, the accent piece goes over 4, under 1, through the loop, and pull all your excess out. The other one, it goes basically over 2, under 1, through that loop and pull your excess out, and then it goes over the next 2. You see what I'm saying? Accent cord goes first, and then the other one, it follows it, but it steps and then steps. And then they go back, and then they go back. That's the flow of it. But once I get it weaved out and I get down to the bottom, I'll come back and I'll show you how I finish it, and then I'll show you the stitching process on this. Okay, folks? But with that, stay tuned, and I'll be back. Okay, folks, I'm back. Got it weaved out almost to the end. I got probably one more little repetition there to do. And I'm going to do that, show you how I finish this one. And then we'll come back and I'm going to show you how to do the stitching. And I made a little bit of a change. I brought the camera closer to the surface in hopes that that will help the focusing issue. So we're going to see. We're going to see. Okay. I'm going to see if I can do this. There's just enough room down here on, there's 2 core strands here and 2 core strands here. There's just enough room that most likely it's going to be a tight fit. And, like I say, I suggest getting some fits. And this is a new one I got just recently. And it has a very blunted point, I should say. It's rounded off a lot more so than the ones that I have been using. So, it's, anyway. Fids. I got a video about what you should do when you first get a set of fids. It's in the tips and tricks playlist, which should be, the link to that playlist is in the description. But with all that said, let's do this. Okay. Again, we're going to keep repeating the same pattern. Let's see. Okay. We got to do our main color. And you can see right here, there's a big hole in between the two. The 2 core strands on this side and 2 core strands on this side. And that's where we got to go through this first time. So that should be no problem. We'll pull out most of our slack. Now to come up through between the 2 core strands on this side might be a little difficult. Plus, I can't quite see. There we go. It's up through there. Now when you do this, I would suggest pulling that piece from the back to make sure you don't have any twists in it, and then pulling this one. That way you can make sure there's no twists. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, now we're going to come across all the way to the other side and wrap around that outside core strand. I apologize, folks. It's kind of hard for me to see. Like I say in my videos, to have the camera see it and me see it, it's not the easiest thing. Okay, we got that up to there. I'm going to pull it to, like I said. Hey, did I do that right? Yeah. Do it over here on this side. Now, what we're going to do here, we got them both on the same side again. So what I'm going to do to kind of keep with the nature of this weave, and to get my cords, like I've said in all my videos, both of these cords are actually coming out of the front of the bracelet. No, we don't want that. We want them on the back, so the cut and burn will be on the back and not on the display side. To keep with the theme, the nature of this weave, we're going to run this first one, this first blue, and I'm going to just take it. All I'm going to do is run it back down in between these 2 core strands on the other side. I'm going to just stick it right through the middle there. And just pull it through. Make sure there's no twist in it. All right? And that's that. Okay, now this one, we're going to do the same way. We're going to bring it across, all the way across, and then we're going to go back through in between these 2 core strands on this side, just like we would normally do. Now, it's a tight fit. You kind of work it and make sure you got your, if you look real close, you can see, just make sure you're not poking through your core strands. Once you get it through there, that's when you put the pressure. I'm holding down on this. I'm pushing this down as I'm, Alright, and I'll just pull out a slack. That gives us that one little more crossover. Now with this one, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to run it down the center right there. The same place I ran this other blue. So, it's a tight fit. And what you can do is you can take this blue cord and kind of hold it up out of the way, and that'll make it a little easier. That way you don't jam through that blue, this blue cord once you're trying to go through here. Just kind of move it out of the way. And if you can, you can grab it and put a little tension on it, and I'll kind of, depending on whatever, but it might open up that space just a little bit so you can get your fid down through there. Alright. Okay, now we see how, let's see, let me see what happens when I zoom in. You know, I should have tested this. Yeah, you can see it. Yeah, that stays in focus a little bit better. But you see how that last one goes across and then it comes up, and instead of this last angle piece going all the way across the bracelet, it just goes down in the middle. So, you know, it kind of keeps with the theme there, right? You know, the weave style. But let me back out just so everybody can see this. I tell you, I put tension on this thing. Now, let's just see. Listen to it pop when I take it off here. And you most likely could see this thing give. Now you see how much it moved? The gap in between where the top of this and where that buckle would be. Yeah, there was some tension on that thing. Okay, now let's get the jig out of the way. Okay. Now, to finish this one off, it's not that hard. It's kind of a tight fit doing this, but it can be done. Okay? What we're going to do, you can do this, I mean, you can do it however you want, but let me zoom in and I'll show you the way I've been doing this. If we can see this, is it going to focus for us? Yeah, it's going to focus. It's just kind of hard to see. Let me see. Zoom in just a little bit more. Here, perhaps I can show you over here on this side. Yeah, there we go. We got a little bit of my laser. Handy dandy laser paracord pointer. All I'm going to do is take, you can do it, you can run both of them up under the same piece, or you can do it separately. If I can get it to go through there, I run them both under the same piece. But we see, okay, we'll look at this multicolored strand right here, just running up and down. That's one of the core strands, right? You see how the dark blue or the midnight blue is wrapping around it. All we're going to do is run these cords. Really? Okay, we're still going to have this focus and issue. We're going to run these two cords up under. Basically, right there where that core strand is going, up under those loops. Now, like I say, you can put both of them up under one loop, or you can put one under one side and one under the other. Me, I tend to want to put them both through the same loop. Okay? But it can be tight, depending on how much tension you put on this and how tight you weave this. It can be. Well, we're going to try this. Let's see. I'm going to try to run them up under this one on this side. That way, you know, it'd be a little easier perhaps for the camera to see. But we're going to take our feed. Oh, sorry, I'm out of frame. Yes, this camera still just doesn't want to focus. That's a little bit better. Okay, but that's all we're going to do. We're just going to run it this way. And like I've said in my past videos, when you're trying to do this, don't try to shovel it down in there. I mean, I know sometimes you do that, but you take that buckle and kind of bend it back. That way you kind of get a more of a straight shot up under there. Now, granted, I can tell you right now, that's going to be tight. What's that side feel like? That side feels a little looser. Let me see. Let me test this out. They feel both about the same, really. I don't know, this side, okay. I'm going to change my mind. This side, this loop on this side seems a little looser, so I'm going to try to do it on that side. I'm going to do this one first, right, because it's on that side. And that buckle back out of the way. And I'm going to just go up under one if I can. I mean, those last two, if you look, these last two little loops right here, wrapping around that core string, they're kind of close together. But I'm going to just try to go up under that one. Be careful when you do this, because I know me, I put some force on this. And when it eventually goes through, sometimes that thing goes way through. You want your fingers in your palm and your hand or whatever, not in the strike zone, if you will. You want to keep your hand out of that. So when that thing does eventually make it through there, you don't, you're not sitting here like this and jam it into your finger. Because you do this long enough, it'll happen. And it's not the most comfortable thing. Okay, I'm going to try to get that twist out. I'm going to get that one that way. I'm going to try to get this one through there. I think I'll be able to do it. Get them both through the same one. I like to have them all in the same spot. I think I can do this. Yeah. I got it up under. I got the tip under there. Now if I can just get the rest of it up under there. Yeah, it's going to go. See? Man, that was just poor too. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and say this. No, never mind. It's not gonna make. I don't know. It might. But I'll deal with it when I get there. The stitching. This may kind of get in the way of the stitching, but no matter. Like I always say, when I go to do this, okay. I'm going to cut off, I'm going to leave about 1.5 inches. I say this in all videos. If you know you're going to stitch the bracelet, do not cut and burn a finished product. Cut it up here. Leave you about, sorry about that. Got a stack of boxes over there that seems to have a mind of its own. They're falling. But if you know you're going to stitch it, don't cut and burn here, because that big burn mark glob of plastic can hinder you from sometimes getting your stitching needle through there, right? So what you do is you leave it like this, and you 1.5 inches, 2 inches, and just cut it up here. And what that does is gets all this excess out of the way, so when you're manipulating that bracelet and that stitching needle, you don't have all this extra getting in the way, right? But you don't want this piece so short that it potentially is going to go suck back through that loop where you got it, and then what are you going to do, right? Okay, that's why I do that. But just go ahead and cut them both. And not, these don't need to be smoothed out or nothing like that. All you don't want to melt them so they don't get frayed. And then you sit them there, let them cool off. Now the scrap pieces, I always, if they're long enough, to actually save. Sometimes they're not, but most of the time with me, they usually are. Okay, now, what we're going to do, and I'll show you this here. Let me back all the way out and I'll show you this. Back to the measurements from the very beginning. I always do this. And I'll make all the amendments down there in the description. Y'all know I put all the bracelet specifications. Everything that you should need to make this bracelet. Now, granted, it's going to be, the measurements will be for the size of the bracelet I made, so you'll have to adjust it slightly. Let's see, what did let's see, we did, okay, on a main color of cord, I had 12 feet and 6 inches, and I've got 1.5 feet left over, right? Okay. Now, we're about to do stitching, so I'm going to try to get all this stuff off my desk. That way, when you get to slinging, when you get to sticking and moving, that micro cord doesn't snag on stuff. So, you kind of want a relatively clean and clear workspace. Okay, now the other cord, I did, what did I say? 8 feet is what I measured out. And I've got 10 inches left. So that was probably a good call. Because, you always want enough, I say this, you always want enough excess. That way, when you get down to the end, you can fold that fid back over itself, and you can get it through the hole. You see what I'm saying? Because I know sometimes some of you experiences, you got about this much left, and you're trying to run your fid right through, not necessarily where this come out, but right next to it through something, and you're like, you can't do it because you don't have enough slack. You see what I'm saying? So you won't. So that's a pretty good amount. Okay. Get the fid, put it in a little fid holder container up there, put a piece of scrap in the scrap bucket, get the scissors out of the way. Oof, all kind of dust. I tend to do this quite often to try to get the dust and debris and little bits and pieces of melted paracord off. That way they don't get on the bracelet. Okay, now to stitch this, that's where we're going now. I went ahead and I cut my piece and I got my fid ready, my little stitching needle. I'll say this, when you put it in that back side, it just takes pressure. I know when I first started doing this, I never could get the thing. I had to struggle to find it. It's still, you know, but you get it, and once you get it, you know, you get it in there, you want it in there so it's not going to come out. Right? Okay. But I cut me a piece. This is Indigo is what it is. Here, it's kind of got a little bit of a purple look to it. But that's what I'm going to be stitching with today. I'm trying to keep with a dark, you know, an overall dark look on this one. But I cut me a piece. What did I cut this one? 7 feet, which that's going to be more than I need. But like I say, I'd rather have enough than, you know, not have enough. I'd rather have scrap in the end, excess, and a piece of scrap in the end than not have enough to finish it. Okay, so let's bring out this one. I want to show you. Let me zoom back in and I'll show you how we're going to do this, just so you can see it. Because I think this right here is going to this shows up a lot better. If you look, we got this gold piece, gold stitching. Comes out here. It starts on the back side of the bracelet, and I've anchored it right here, and I went up under these 2 little loops that go around that core strand, and goes through right there, and it comes out right here, and it goes through, okay, and then it comes back through this same hole and comes out and goes to the next one. But in order to keep it, you know, like when you go to put some tension on it, to keep it from pulling through here, you got to wrap around right there. You wrap around that core strand. And I do this in such a way that it keeps, I wrap around here. I'll show you this so we see this. This is the part I sat and I had to figure this out, how to get this stitching on the front to sit correctly and look right. You see this black piece that's running the loop going around that core string. You notice the stitching is below it. Here's the top of the bracelet where we started weaving, and we're going to start to stitch it, right? So this piece of gold stitching is below that loop right there, black. And you notice every one of them is like that. There's a reason I do it that way. It's to keep the front of this so it sits and it looks correct. Because if you notice on here, okay, I'm going to show you this. This is the attention to detail this is me. This is the way I do this. Now, you don't have to go through all this, but this is the way I do it. That way, everything's consistent. Okay, now it's kind of hard to see on this first one, right? But if we look right here where these 2 cords meet, this gold right here is running at this angle. It comes through the bracelet here, and then it goes down here. And you notice how it's going up under this piece of gold here. Right? It goes through, it wraps around that core strand, like I just showed you on the back, and it comes back through, and then it's this angled piece right here. It comes out right here, and it goes through here. And notice, again, that piece that's angled, it's going underneath the gold piece below it. When I say underneath, look at it. It's going down, and then this gold piece is coming out above it. And you noticed every one of them is like that. That's, like I've said before, the craftsmanship is in the details. That's the attention to detail that I see, right, when I try to do this. Okay? Now, it's not that hard to do. You just got to be mindful of where you're putting that needle. And, you know, this magnifying glass comes in very handy sometimes, you know. I don't wear prescription lenses, but I have reading glasses that I wear all the time. Right? I probably should go get my eyes examined, but my eyesight's not that bad. I need them to read stuff. I need them to read, but other than that, I can see. Okay, so we see that what I'm talking about. Okay, with all that said, stop flapping your gums, Steve, and show us how to do this. Okay, I'm going to. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this one, we're going to flip it over. Let's see. We're going to come through on this side of the bracelet, right? So we're going to run through. I'm going to do these first two little loops right here. This blue and this blue loop is right around that core string. Why? Because these things I already know they're tight, and it's gonna take some effort for me to get my needle up through those. So I'm not gonna try to do 3 or 4 or nothing like that. I'm gonna just do the first two. And like I've said in the past, you try not to shovel it up under there. You can take that bracelet and bend it back. That way you can kind of get a straight shot up under there. Right? Now I'm going to try to do this. Let me do this and then I'll show you on camera. I'll get it up there to the camera. Oh, I don't know. That one might go through there kind of easy. Yeah, that was going through there pretty easy. Okay, now if I can get it up under the other one too. Oh yeah, that's going through there easier than I thought it would. Okay, and you know, you can always see how I kind of got the buckle bent back. That way the tip doesn't poke through all them cords that are going through that slot. But you see how I did this. Let me get that to focus, even if it doesn't focus. There we go. See how I did that, right? Okay, now, we just kind of push it through. Same thing I tell you all the time. When you get it to that there, reach up there and push those pieces back down. That way there's some resistance when you pull. That way you don't pull and snatch the cord, the end of the cord through, and have to go back and do all that again. When you get close to the end, kind of slow down. Leave you a little bit. I always want to leave you a little bit because you're going to have to hold it this first 2 or 3 stitches so it doesn't get sucked up in there. Right? Okay, now, here's what we're going to do. We see how on this one, we started over here on this side. We didn't follow this big piece up here. We only do the center part. So what we're going to do, you're going to look at that bracelet. Like I've said in a lot of my stitching type videos, sometimes you have to come in. I know we're going to go through this side of the bracelet and pull it through. But sometimes in order to get this hole so you can get through there, sometimes you kind of need to come in from this direction and kind of find your way through and then take your needle back out and then go in the way you. Does that make sense? You kind of bore through and get the hole there for you or whatever. But I'm going to see if I can't get this from this side. Because this first one's kind of got a little bit of a. Let me see. Let me look at this. Just kind of, yeah, I got it through there. We see where I went through. I went through right at the top of that little loop that I went through. See, I anchored it under this first loop, the second loop. So you go right in through there. And you come out under this blue piece. the dark blue piece here, right here in this general area. Now I'm gonna go ahead and tell you that we want our microcord to seat right here. See how this piece comes down? It's going to be on the top. Yeah, let me show you that on this one. Let me show you that on this bracelet. We see how our microcord sits at the top of all these accent pieces, right? You see where it's at right there. Now, it takes a little effort to get it up in there because that first one wants to sit down here. So we kind of got to pull it and get it up there. So what we're going to do, we're going to just pull a slack through. When you do this, like I've said before in the past, make sure you kind of got a hold on this one right here, because you don't want to pull it and pull all that through. Okay, make sure you got a good hold on it. What you're going to do is you're going to reach up here like this, and you're going to pull that thing, and you see how it pulls it. It pulls it to right there where we want it. It pulls it right there where we want it. Okay, now all we're going to do is we're going to go through. Let me try this. All we're going to do, to get all this out of the way, like I said, we're going to follow this cord. That's all we're doing is following this cord for the most part. We're just going to follow the top of it, and we're going to go through right here in this general area. Okay, now here's where, you know, if you're done stitching, you got to get the angle of your needle right to get it to come out where you want it. Because there's space in between all these knots here. This is what takes me, you know, when I sit down and figure out how to stitch one of these, I'm trying to find where that space is. That way, if you get the right angle, you can feel it, and it just goes right through. Okay? So, with this is what we're going to do. I'm going to see if I can explain this. Okay. Display side, top, right? The top, as in where we started weaving, and this is the display side. We're going to go through right here. But when we come out, let's show you where we're going to come out at. We're going to come out. This will stay in focus. Okay, what you got here, you got a core strand running through here, and then here's the other core strand, right? We're going to come out between these two core strands in this area right here, kind of below this loop. Like I showed before, that microcord is going to wrap under this loop around this core strand. So we're going to come out in this general area. Now, if you look, when you go to do this, and you run it through here, if you're looking at it from this side, you can see down in there. You'll kind of be able to see it. But if you get it at the right angle, it'll go right through there. I don't care how tight. I've noticed that. I don't care how tight I've pulled one of these bracelets. It will go through there. It's not that hard. You just got to get that angle right. So, let me do this, and I'm going to show you. Let me get it through there. I say that. Now watch it not want to go through there correctly. But if you get it, see, I didn't put any pressure on that. It went right through there. And we see where it went through. I'll let you see. You see where I'm going through. All right. Now, notice the angle of it. All right. Notice the angle and the back of it, where it's come out at. And you can actually see right, if you look, right there at the tip of my laser paracord pointer, right there, you can see space through that bracelet. Then the space is there on this. You think, man, that thing's thick. Yeah, but there's a space and it goes right through it. So what you do is you pull this through. Pulling your slack through, and be mindful of the twist. And boop. Bam. Okay, now, here's the tricky part. I want you to pay attention to this. Hopefully you'll be able to see. I'll explain it, and then I'll show you what I'm doing, because this is all one motion. All we're going to do, we came out here. Come on. Focus, man. Focus. Man, it just will not focus. It'll focus on everything but what I want it to focus on. Focus on the bracelet, camera. I mean, it doesn't matter. Let's back out a little bit. Maybe that'll help. Okay, it doesn't matter. Hopefully you can see this here. Let me see. I'm going to get this to focus. I don't know why. It looks like it's in focus, but it's not. It just will not focus. It'll focus for 2 seconds and then goes away. I'm sorry, folks. I'm getting frustrated. This frustrates me to no end. Why will it not focus? See, I don't know how all this stuff works. But it doesn't like to focus. It might have something to do with the fact that I'm using blue cord. See how it focuses for 2 seconds and it goes away? Look there. Anyway, we're just going to have to go with it. I apologize, folks. Okay, so what we're going to do is this loop. When you're doing this, you'll see it on your bracelet. This loop right here, just going to around this core string. All we're going to do, we come this way, all we're going to do is go over here to this side of the loop. Okay? And we're going to jam this thing in between these 2 core strands at this crazy angle, and we're going to go all the way back up, and we're going to come out that same hole. And like I said, we want to come out above this piece of stitching up here. Okay? And you think, how in the world? It can be done. It can be done, and it's a pretty straight shot. Getting the tip of the fid to not pierce this piece of microcord, that's kind of the key, and to get it above. So what I'll do is just kind of take this and kind of pull it this way. I'm going to show you this. We'll take it right here in this general area. Okay, we're going through the bracelet, but we got to go up at an angle. Okay, if you look, you can see it's wanting to come out underneath. See? It's wanting to come out underneath. I don't want it that way. I want it to be on top. So I'm going to back it out. And I'm going to kind of move it and angle that needle just a little bit more. Now, if you look, you see how I've got it coming toward the top, this direction. That needle's coming out above that other piece of microcord. And it's wrapped around, it's wrapped around this core strand back here. So we just, now you notice that angle I got on that. And it's got a slight angle this way too. Now I'm accentuating it, over-exaggerating it with my hand, but you notice it's kind of got a little bit of an angle. Now you just push it through. Pull it through. Mindful of the twist. When you get right here, you can flip it over and you can pull this and it'll tighten up that piece too. Tighten up this piece running this direction. Now we're going to come across and we're going to go through on the other side. That right there is all we're going to do all the way down. We're just alternating sides and alternating the core strands we wrap around on the back. That makes sense? I'll show you this one more time. Let me back out a little bit. Hope I can attempt to stay in frame a little bit better. And we take this needle. We're going to go through right here. Kind of probe around in there a little bit. You'll feel it. Now remember the angle we're going for. Going through the bracelet, but we're kind of going at a downward angle because we want to get below this loop down here. Right here. See how easy it was? I didn't have to put any pressure on it. Just kind of feel through and it goes right through. Take out your slide. Mindful of your twist. If you have your twist, just kind of pull it down. You don't have to cinch it up yet. Just pull it through. Okay? Now, again, we're going to wrap around this core strand on this side. We're going to go from this outside of the core strand, and we're going to go from this part, and we're going to wrap around underneath this loop, and we're going to go through the middle of the bracelet. And then we're going to go through at that crazy upward angle to come back out in that same spot. Right there. Okay, now I'm going to do this. So, come through here, we're going to go toward the center of the bracelet, and we're going to go through, we're going to come through. If you just kind of flip it over and look, you'll see the angle you need to go at. You see how that upward angle, just kind of, and it's relatively simple, I say that. Yeah, there it is right there. Pretty simple. Once you do it 2 or 3 times, you'll figure out, okay, that's what, and it goes right through. There's no pressure or nothing. So I'm gonna just push it through. It goes right through that spot. Now, we just pull it through, pull the slack through, mindful of the twist. And, you're wrapping around this anchor piece too. Go ahead and you don't have to be worried about that. Just wrap around. See, I'm pulling it up right here. Now, we flip it over. When I pull this, it's going to tighten up that piece right there. Bam. Now, it come out on this side. This cord is above toward this direction from the cord wrapped around this side. No, this thing will not focus. Does that make sense? So when it comes down, you see. Now we're just going to repeat that pattern. That's all there is to this one. It's not that hard. Once you do it a few times and you kind of get that angle, you get it in there, and you kind of. I take my pinky and push it in there. There's a gap in there. It's there. And like I said, I don't care how tight I've pulled this bracelet, how much I've pushed the knots toward the top buckle, wrenched down on it. It's pretty easy to get that through there. It's not, I know some of these ones I've done, this one, it's not that hard. It just takes a little bit of time, and you got to make sure you get that angle just right. But it's not hard. It just takes time because you got to do every one of them. It's repetitious. Okay? And we'll kind of pull it down a little bit. Like I said, kind of angle this thing down. Pull this down. That way when you go through there, it'll let you go above, and it'll come out what I'm talking about. Okay? So I'll show you this one more time. We're going to go from this side of the core strand. We're going to wrap around the core strand underneath the loop and go right through the middle. But we got to angle it up because we want to come out right there. See how it just popped through there? Now be mindful, for some reason, this side, when you're doing it right here on this side, not so much on this side like the one we just did, but this side, it has a tendency to, the angle doesn't want to be completely right. And the tip of your needle has a tendency to want to poke the back side of the other piece of microcord. And in fact, we want to come above it that way, right? We pull it through. Mindful of our twist, mindful of our twist. All right, when we get it right there, we'll flip it over. Man, this thing. I mean, look at that. It focus on my finger when I move my hand. Oh, see, it's in focus there. But you get it right here, and you pull this, and it's going to tighten up that last one. All it's doing is wrapping around that core strand in the back. And that's it. That's all there is to it. It's not that hard. Follow it. I know it's kind of hard to see because of this colored cord, but follow it along the top and go right through there. Kind of add a little bit of a downward angle. See, it come right through there. I was amazed when I sat here and tried to mess around and figure out how to do this stitching. I was amazed. Once I got it and figured out where to go, I was amazed at how, I was like, man, there's no force, for those who, guitar players, they get calluses and stuff on the fingertips. That's from stitching. That's what that's from. That's where I put that back of that needle. When I put it through there, I rest it on my hand right there, and that's where my force comes through. When I need on some of these bracelets where you got to put some force to it, But that you can see this one, you can do it with your pinky. It's in there, no problem. But there you go. That's how you do that. I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna stitch it all the way to the bottom. I'll get down to the end. I'll show you how to finish it off, which is not that hard. And we'll cut and burn it. And like I said, this one's not for me, but we'll put it on the test manual, on the sizing manual, and give it an on-camera testing. But stick around. I'll be back on just a minute. Okay, folks, I'm back, and I got this thing stitched out almost to the end. I'll let you see it. It's kind of hard to see this micro cord I used. Very, very, it's a dark, I tried to stick with the dark theme here, so, it's kind of hard to see even on camera. Let me see if I can get that light to do a little bit better for us. But it's there. I got it all stitched out except for the last two. You see it's where it's coming out here. We're going to go across and do this last one. Now this last part can be a little tricky. Because this last knot right here that we got to wrap around, we got our two cords going up through there. But you do it just like normal. Just go across the top of those two cords that are running through there. But let me zoom in. I'll do this and I'll do the cut and burns, and then we'll throw it on the sizing manual to make sure we got it the right size. Okay, so this last one, let's go ahead and give this one a snug. Okay, like I said, it gets a little tight down here at the bottom, but it's the same. You're doing the same principle. We'll go through. Like I say, sometimes you gotta make your hole from the other side. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, there we go. And then you pull out and you go back, and you see what I'm saying? Same spot we've been going through. It's gonna come out right there. I'll just pull it through. Now this right here, because we got these cords in our way. This can be a little tricky to try to get up under there, but we can do this. You're doing the same thing. You're wrapping around that cord strand, which, you know, is buried up under these two right here. But just follow this loop around and go right through the middle like you've been doing. Okay? We're going to come out. That's going to be a little... Let me see. Let me go in this way. Because it's tight down here at the bottom. Here, let me get my light over here so I can see what I'm actually trying to do here. Yeah, there it is right there. This last one, it's not much of an angle to it. You see, as opposed to how we were doing it before, we had this crazy angle. This last one's not much of an angle. Okay, so let me pull it out because I want to go through this side. Yep, there it is right there. Got it through the same spot. And you can see where I'm coming out in the same area. We're just going to go follow this last little piece right there. Give it that last little snug. And then this one's just going to go through the hole to the back side of the bracelet. Pretty much straight shot right through there. Now, see how we want this piece. We want this piece running right, this piece right here, to sit on the bottom of that loop. So now we're just going to kind of pull it. Oops, sorry, out of frame. We're going to pull it. That's just going to tighten it up right there. And now we're just going to take this piece and run it through that loop, up under that piece of micro cord we just did, and through this loop and come out up here. And that's going to be it. And then we're going to make sure everything's tight. And we're going to do cut and burns. And that's it. I started off with a piece that was 7 feet long, and I've got a 1.4 feet left. Okay, so we probably could have went with depending on the length of your bracelet, 6 feet or so. But like I said, I'll annotate it down there in the description. I'll put it in the description. I'm going to just probably most likely just put 6 feet. Alright, now we got that through. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut this piece. Got a little bit of a burn. Got a little bit of a burn. And I'm going to put this piece in the scrap bucket. If I get the fit off, there we go. Put it over in my little holder. Okay. Now, let me back out. Alright. We got this one piece of micro cord up here. And this can be kind of tricky because if you look, the way that core string's running, and then you got these little loops around it, there's kind of like a little groove in there where it's going to get cut and burned. So, you know, just be mindful of it right there. And it wants to lay flat. So you know, we don't want to burn any of the bracelet. We just want to burn this. So I'll take this right here and kind of bend it back up. That way it's sticking up when I go to burn it. Okay. And as always, have your smoothing tool, whatever it is you use, have it ready. Because, you know, this cut and burn is always a time-sensitive thing. You want, while that plastic's molten, you want to deal with it. So we're going to just put that one. That's that one. That's not enough scrap to do anything with. That can go in the trash. We're going to turn around on this one. Okay. Like I say all the time, before you cut and burn, make sure the end of the bracelet is tight. Make sure all these pieces at the end are tight. Make sure your sides are, you know, not bulging out or anything like that. We want to straighten all this up before we cut and burn. Our final cut and burn. Everything looks good. But I'm going to just for the purpose, I'm going to hold the bracelet down and grab this one and just kind of give it a little tug. Give it a little tug because everything's already pretty tight. So, you know, you just want to make sure, though, before you do it. Because once you cut this, there ain't no going back. We're going to cut it. Like I always say, once you got it cut like that, don't manhandle the thing. Don't pick it up and start moving it around because those cords can slide back through and, you know, you're in a world of trouble then. So, get our lighter out. We're going to do this one. Always be mindful when you cut and burn this and you're going to smooth it out. Let it cool off for a minute, but reach up there and kind of touch it. Make sure you don't have any burrs on that plastic because that stuff can irritate your skin. You know, it'll be rubbing your skin. So you want to make sure everything's smooth. Yep, everything's smooth. Looks good. Now for the test. I'll back out. And I do this on camera always. I always do this on camera for you guys just to see. You know, now this one's not for me. If this one was made for my wrist, I'd put it on and, you know, we'd do, you know, show you the sizing. This one is for an actual customer and his wrist is, like I said in the beginning, his wrist is 7 3/4 inches. The add 2 was about 1 3/4 inches. So I've got this mandrel over here. It's actually what it is it's for stretching metal jewelry. But I've marked it. You know, y'all may have seen this. Y'all have seen me use this thing before. See, it's narrow and it tapers down, and I've got the sizes marked. That way, when I make one for a customer, before I send it out, I can put it on here and make sure that it's going to be the right size. And I'm going to tell you, this is a confidence builder. This lets you know, as long as you've got your measurements, because I had to write these on here. This is like a magic marker, a Sharpie. I measured it out and everything. As long as you got that right, this is a confidence builder that lets you know, hey, I've got the right size. Hey, and there's been times when I go to do one of these and it's not the right size. You can see the 8-inch mark right there. 7, 8, 9 inches. That looks like a 7 3/4 inch wrist fit to me. But there you go. There's your finished product. I'll give you a look at it. Oh, I'll show you that brass buckle. Brushed brass, 15 millimeter. Paracord EU. Midnight blue, blue steel, and indigo microcord. That one turned out pretty good. Kind of it's a blue themed, but it's, you know, it's a little bit darker theme. But there you go. I appreciate you watching. Give us a like. Give the video a like. Comment below. Let me know, what you'd like me to see, what you'd like to see me do. But with that, I'll end this one like I end them all. Keep it neat, keep it clean, and keep it tight. Happy weeding, folks.